Welcome back to the Eternal Wrestling Podcast as we present the go home show before our first pay-per-view Bloodlust. Welcome to Reckoning. Pyro shoots off in the arena. The people in the crowd are going crazy. This is high energy as we are gearing up for our first pay-per-view this Saturday, Bloodlust. 2 tag teams have been drawn at random to compete in a number 1 contenders tag team title match. And for our opening segment, the first tag team making their way out is the Hardy Boys, Jeff and Matt Hardy. But who are their opponents going to be tonight? Out comes Penta and Rey Mysterio. This match kicks off with some high-flying chaos. Matt and Jeff Hardy looking vintage here, hitting poetry in motion, trying to go for Twist of Fate, still trying to show their speed here. But eventually, the speed and prowess of the luchadors here in this match becomes too much. And eventually, as things start winding down, Jeff Hardy, he's climbing up to the top turnbuckle. He is looking for the Swanton Bomb. He jumps, flips, but Penta is able to move out of the way and immediately grabs onto Jeff, hitting his signature sacrifice armbreaker. And Rey Mysterio is able to take out Matt with a 619. And for the finishing of this match, Penta hits a Fear Factor pile driver on Jeff Hardy. He goes for the pinfall here. 1, 2, 3. The luchadors stand tall in this opening bout and are crowned your number 1 contenders and will go on to face the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, for the tag team titles. Segment 2. Damian Priest comes out to the ring. He grabs a microphone and he says, "Darby Allin, I had you beat last week, but, I can respect your daredevil antics and what you bring to the ring. So how about you and I have a rematch next week? 1-on-1. He's very respectful here. He just wants to have a rematch and see if he can really prove himself against Darby, or if Darby's win was just a fluke. Soon out comes Darby on the entrance ramp. He doesn't have a microphone or anything in his hand. He just looks down at Damian Priest in the ring and nods his head yes. The challenge is accepted. And next week, we will see these two collide. On to segment 3. The camera finds Bronson Reed. He's walking backstage down a hallway, looking like $1 million here. He's got a custom suit, gold chain. He's got some fancy shades on. Just kind of, strutting along, minding his own business. He walks past a door that's slightly cracked open, and out of this door explodes Randy Orton like a bat out of hell. Orton grabs onto the back of Bronson Reed's head, mashing it into a catering table. Shattering plates, food's flying left and right. These two men brawl back and forth until eventually Orton is able to get the upper hand here, knocking Reed to the floor and hits a big, thundering punt kick to his head. He leans down really close, getting his face right next to Bronson, and he snarls, "Tomorrow night, you and me. Bloodlust." This match has been set for Saturday. Segment 4 here. We have a 1-on-1 contest, Finn Balor against Tommaso Ciampa. This is definitely a technical masterclass between two fantastic wrestlers. Eventually, Finn Balor, he's in control here. He hits a shotgun drop kick that sends Ciampa into the corner. And eventually, Finn is climbing up to the top rope for his finisher, the coup de grace. But Johnny Gargano jumps up on the apron, and he pulls Finn off the turnbuckle, causing an immediate disqualification. Finn is looking confused here. Like, what are you doing? What's the issue? And before he knows it, since he's distracted by our guy Gargano, Tommaso comes from behind and hits him in the head. This then becomes a 2-on-1 beatdown as DIY are unhappy and decide that, you know what, with all the bullcrap from the NWO and them pretty much getting almost squashed last week, they're taking out some aggression on Finn Balor. And eventually, security has to rush out to stop them as they're about to take things way too far. On to segment 5, we are shown backstage in a kind of shady boiler room. We see Cactus Jack with a bag in his hand, and Sandman is sitting beside him. He's got a smoke hanging out of his mouth and a beer can cracked open in his hand. And Cactus decides to lay down a challenge to the Kings of the Black Throne, Aleister Black and Brody King. And he says, "So you two want to get spooky, huh? Well, how bad do you think you're going to be when you have tax in your skin? Bang, bang. Well, we see you tomorrow night on to segment 6. Seth Rollins, he's backstage. He is wrapping up his wrists, and a female interviewer, she enters his locker room area, and she's asking him how he feels about this match, about facing the Samoan bulldozer Umaga. And Seth goes on to say that he's faced many monsters. He's faced many men, but tonight, he's going to outwork Umaga. On to segment 7. We see the camera pan around, looking at the crowd in the arena. And the arena lights dim, almost black, but then a deep purple overshadows the crowd. The Kings of the Black Throne appear on the big screen. And Aleister Black, he's holding a piece of barbed wire in his hand. He goes on to say, "Cactus, Sandman, you mistake scars for strength. Tomorrow, we don't need tax. We bring the end." On to segment 8, we see the Young Bucks. They're backstage and they're looking at a monitor, kind of reviewing the match between the Hardys and Penta and Rey Mysterio, and they're talking about facing them at the pay-per-view and that they're going to retain their tag team titles, no matter what happens here. On to segment 9, we are going to have a one-on-one match in the continuation of the World Heavyweight Championship Tournament. We see Drew McIntyre making his entrance down to the ring. And we also see Kane, the big red machine, with his red and black full face mask and bodysuit. Flames are shooting up out of the entrance ramp as he makes his way down. He enters the ring, raises his both hands in the air, throws them down. The flames are shooting in the air. The crowd is looking amazed yet stunned. We go to commercial break. Segment 10, we see the start of this match. The bell rings, and early on here, Kane, he is dominating with raw power, tossing Drew McIntyre across the ring. Clotheslines, fists, slams, trying to get the upper hand on Drew here. And Drew, he's fighting back with a series of overhead belly-to-belly suplexes. Until eventually, as the match wears down, Kane goes for a chokeslam. But Drew, he's able to get out of it. He hits the ropes and levels a big red machine with a big, massive Claymore kick. He goes for the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. He puts down the big red machine here, and he will go on to face Hollywood Hogan for the World Heavyweight Championship at Bloodlust. Segment 11. 2 NWO members appear here, Hollywood Hogan and Braun Strowman, as Bronson Reed was attacked backstage and is not appearing. Hogan struts out and he has a mic. "Well, brother, you may have beaten the big red machine, but you never stepped in the ring with the greatest of all time. Tomorrow night, your ass is grass, Jack. What you gonna do?" On to segment 12. our main event of the evening for the Vanguard Championship. Umaga, the Samoan bulldozer. He marches down to the ring. Then out comes our champion, Seth freaking Rollins. His theme song's playing. Whoa, burn it down. You know, pyro's going off, and then he gets in the ring. The bell sounds. Umaga is just a terrifying presence here, ignoring Seth's strikes. And he's just throwing Seth around like a rag doll, really just using his bigger size to his advantage here. Towards the middle of the match, Umaga catches Seth mid-suicide dive and slams him into the barricade with a big Samoan drop to the floor. Umaga rolls back into the ring, just seething. The ref starts counting. He's up to 7. He's up to 8. He's up to 9. Seth slides back in the ring. Barely. He's gasping for air, and he is beaten down. Umaga climbs the ropes. A rare sight for such a big man, and he goes for a big, diving headbutt. He connects. The crowd, they're gasping. Is this the end for Seth Rollins? He covers Seth. 1, 2, almost a 3 count. Seth barely gets the shoulder up here. The Visionary barely hangs on to the title. Eventually, Umaga, he's setting up the big Samoan spike. Seth looks like he is just done. He almost looks dead here. Umaga lets out a big primal scream. He lurches back with his thumb. He's going to strike on Seth. Seth, kick to the gut of Umaga, transitions into a pedigree. Seth doesn't cover him here. He knows he has to get more while Umaga is wobbly and on his knees. Seth hits with 3 super kicks, back to back to back. Umaga's wobbling. He looks dazed. Seth hits the ropes, jumps high, a big leap, smashes Umaga's face down in the canvas with a big vicious curb stomp. Goes for the pinfall. 1, 2, kick out by Umaga. Ooh, Seth looks heated. He looks pissed. He thought he had the win here. Umaga is stirring. He looks like he's gonna possibly get back up. Seth tries to get a second wind. Runs, hits the rope. Stomp again. But Umaga, he starts to startle. He starts to get back up. Seth is almost staring amazed in a way. He runs, hits the rope. Another stomp to the back of the head of Umaga. Rolls over the Samoan bulldozer. Goes for the pinfall. 1, 2, 3. Ding, ding, ding. Your winner and still Vanguard champion, Seth freaking Rollins. The referee hands Seth his championship. Seth grabs it from the ref, climbs the turnbuckle, hoisting his title in the air. But he looks back at Umaga, very surprised at how much it took to keep this bulldozer down. The credits roll, and the show fades to black. That is the end of our episode here. But before we go, I'm going to run down the match card for our Bloodlust pay-per-view airing on Saturday morning. So we will see Randy Orton taking on Bronson Reed. We're going to have a hardcore tag team match. The Kings of the Black Throne, Aleister Black and Brody King, taking on ECW Originals and Hardcore Fanatics, Cactus Jack and Sandman. We will also see 2 massive monsters, The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, taking on Big Van Vader, the Mastodon. Our tag team titles will be defended. The Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, taking on the new #1 contenders, Penta and Rey Mysterio. Then our first ever World Heavyweight Champion will be decided as NWO's Hollywood Hulk Hogan takes on the Scottish Warrior, Drew McIntyre. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I'm your host, Jacob, and rivalries live forever, legends never die, and this has been another exciting episode of Eternal Wrestling's podcast, Fantasy Booking Reckoning. I'll catch you guys on Saturday for our first pay-per-view, Bloodlust. Until then, stay classy, have a lovely morning or night whenever you listen to this.